Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
Jon, welcome to Breaking Par. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Bernard, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So, you know, you have a new book out, and to me it's pretty exciting. But before we get down to that, what I would like to do is just ask you a few questions. And one is, when is the first time that you ever picked up a golf club? And then following that, when was that aha moment popped in your head that you said, you know what, I could maybe do this as a career, and I think I'm going to try to pursue this?
Well, that's a great question. Two great questions that I actually cover in the book. The first one is the very first time I ever saw a golf club. I was about the age of 6, and I just happened, like little boys do, was very curious, and I was going through the hall closet, and I opened up the closet door, and inside the closet I saw my father's golf clubs. Now, this was the first time I'd ever seen a golf club. I didn't know what it was. My brothers and I picked it up and took the bag into our room, and we just started going through and looking at everything. And I just immediately had a passion and just fell in love with the game. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I did not know that they were golf clubs, but I knew for some reason that you were supposed to hit the ball. So my brother and I went out into the yard, and we started, my first swing was a whiff, like most people's. But then when I finally connected with the ball, it was, of course, a slice, which is very common. But we were just swinging away, having fun, and we looked at every ball as an opportunity. We maximized it, we relished it, and then eventually we ran out of opportunities because we had hit all my father's balls. And right after we had hit the last ball, we heard my father's car pull into the driveway, and we knew we were in trouble. But my father just he actually enjoyed the fact that we loved it. And he just made us go find all the balls, and we did not enjoy looking for the balls. That was not nearly as fun as hitting the balls. As far as the aha moment, my first professional golf tournament that I ever went to was the Masters, and it was a practice round at the Masters. My uncle Louis Eckstein took me there. And keep in mind, I was born in Augusta, Georgia. The first chapter of my book is titled Augusta. And so for me to go to the city for the first time in my life outside of my birth, to actually see Augusta National, I was so excited. My idol was Jack Nicklaus. And when I got there and I saw how green the grass was, and I just walked the entire golf course, my dreams to be a PGA Tour player were at that moment. That was my dream. I had no desire to teach the game. I had no desire to be a golf professional. I wanted to be a tour player. And, of course, that's where it all started.
That's exciting. I mean, to think that your very first tournament that you ever went to is a tournament that I think every golfer wants to get to someday, and most don't. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And Augusta, I think what makes the Masters such a wonderful tournament is the fact that even people who don't play golf watch it. It's the only tournament that I know of that I get people. I'll go to church, and people who are not golfers will come up to me and make comments about who's leading and who's going to come back and all these things. And so I know that there's a lot of eyeballs on that tournament. It is my favorite event of the year of all. And I love all sports, but the Masters is by far number one.
I know for me too. The Masters is without a doubt, I think, the greatest sporting event that there is. And I'm not saying that because I'm a professional golfer. I even felt that way before I got involved in golf. And I think the reason why for me is because it's always at the same spot, and it's so steeped in history. And it's just, to me, I love that history. And when I got there, I was lucky enough to go in 2005, and when I walked the ground, you could feel the energy in the air from not just what was going on at that day, but the history of the energy in the air of things like past champions and that they were there and walking in through, and you know that they were there too on that day. It It was really an amazing, amazing feeling. And I don't believe that any other sporting event in the history of sport is at the same location every single year, and is just like that. I mean, it just has such a special thing going for it.
There's no doubt about it. The amount, when you always look at the crowd, the patrons, I mean, they're just everywhere. I mean, it's just packed. The ratings are always high, and it's always exciting. And what I love as well is, I don't like to watch a golf tournament where 30 under wins, but I also don't like to watch a golf tournament where 4 over wins. I like to see the scores are always in the, anywhere from 6 under to 10 under. I think that's a perfect blend of great golf, where par means something, but there's eagles and birdies that can be made. And the back nine, having those 2 par 5s, 13 and 15, they're so compelling. And they're par 5s that pretty much everyone in the field can eagle, but you can also make a big number, and you see it every year. And then 12, I mean, my gosh, 12 I think is a more difficult hole than 17 at TPC. That's my own opinion. So it's just a great venue, and everyone knows the holes. And when you say 17 or 16 or something like that, everyone can see it in their mind. It's just a great opportunity to watch great golf.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as we're speaking here in my office, I have 3 pictures right over my head here above me. That is number 16, part of 11 and 12 and 13 that I took photos of when I was there. And to me, it's amazing. And I know, too, that since there's no rough, most people would think that if there was rough, it would be a tougher golf course. But I think that because there's not rough, it makes it a tougher golf course, because if you hit it in a certain spot, the rough isn't going to hold it up. It's going to run through, and it'll end up in all different types of trouble. I know that I'm down here at Tiburon, and there's no rough here also. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes this golf course so difficult, that if you just miss it by a little bit, you're off the back of that green, and there's nothing to stop it. And it's running into waste area or into water, and it really makes it a lot more challenging.
Yeah, I think that golf was designed to be played on the ground, and it brings chipping, bump and runs into play. I do not like playing golf courses that are all forced carry golf courses. I don't mind a few holes being forced carries, but when it's 18 holes of forced carries, it's just I think it's bad it slows down play. It's not fun, and if I think the best golf courses, when I miss the green, if I have to make a decision, do I bump and run this? Do I flop this? Do I putt this? To me, that's compelling. When I miss the green and I have to grab my lob wedge every time, there's nothing compelling about that. When I have to, flop it over a creek or flop it over a bunker, there's no decision to be made. And I think that the most difficult shots in golf are the ones where you're required to make a decision, because there's the little voice in your head, are you doing the right thing here? And it really requires the golfer to be calm, to make a organized, smart decision in a short amount of time. And that's the great thing about golf, is you're not only the player, but you're the coach. And so you get to call the play, and you get to live with the decision and die with the decision. So Augusta brings out all of that, and as well as the British Open. And those are 2 of my favorite events to watch.
Yeah, they're amazing events, and I agree with you 100%. And I think that when it is more of that way and not forced carries, it does give you more options, and it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, there's 2 or 3 ways that I can make this shot. Which one do I believe, for me at this moment, is going to be my best decision? And how I feel at this moment, and how my body feels, and how my touch is, and how, all those things come into play. And it really makes it just a lot more interesting and enjoyable. As you said, if every single time you miss a green, you're pulling a lob wedge out, it's the same shot every time.
Exactly.
And it's not as fun.
No.
It's the variety is what makes golf, I think, so pleasurable too. Is that you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. It's like life. It's exactly like life. If I went through my life and somebody told me every day this is what you had to do, I would not like that. I love the opportunity to have free will and to make decisions, and I think that's what a good golf course should do. Is if you hit a great shot, you should be rewarded. If you hit a bad shot, you should have to make decisions. It should not be clear cut, and I think that's, to me, those are my favorite type of golf courses to play.
Well, and as you said, as golf is like life, there are certain things that, can hit us get broadsided and we don't even realize. And we think that it's the end of the world or that, we're not going to recover. How are we going to ever recover from this? And that happens in golf, too. How am I going to recover from this shot? How am I going to come back? But what that does, I believe, is it builds that diversity in yourself to rise to the occasion, and also to have more faith in yourself, that you can execute something if you put your mind to it. And golf is a lot like that, and and that's the way life is too. I know that we were speaking yesterday off camera, and I've run into all types of things in my life, and I'm going through some things now, but I think that it'll come out. It'll be a learning. It's an opportunity for me to learn and to move on and to grow.
You're going to grow stronger, no doubt about that.
Exactly. The same things in golf. When you get into these terrible situations, it's an opportunity for you to learn that situation. So if you're ever in it again, you know how to handle it.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to the decision to start writing a book. I mean, most people just don't say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to write a book." And the book that you wrote is not just like your normal everyday golf book either. I mean, so what made you decide to do that, and how was your journey through writing that book?
That's a great question. It's probably the most common question I get, and it's one I enjoy the most because it shows how God works in your life. Again, my dream was to be a PGA Tour player. I moved down to Orlando, Florida, and I realized after a while that part of my life was not going to happen. I was not going to be a tour player, and I was playing some professionally, mini tours and things like that, but I started working at the Grande Cypress Academy of Golf. And when I started working there, and that's in Orlando, Florida, I became a teacher, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to teach the game. And I fell in love with teaching, and as I was teaching lessons, immediately I started having stories that were just started forming in my mind. I was able to be around players like Payne Stewart and Seve Ballesteros and Paul Azinger, and these are people that were coming to Grande Cypress to take lessons. They were taking lessons with Fred Griffin and Phil Rodgers, who are both Fred was my boss, and Phil has been more of a mentor and taught me so much about, especially the short game. But I was able to be around tour players on a regular basis, and stories just started forming in my mind. Keep in mind, Bernard, I never in my life ever wanted to write a book. I never thought about writing a book. I never had a teacher come up to me and say, "John, you have a gift for writing." But I knew that something was going on. So finally, after about 10 years of this, I went to Fred and I said, "Fred, I think that God wants me to write a book. I'm having all these things that are going on in my mind, and I know that he wants me to write a book." And Fred said, "Well, John, you'll know when the time is right." Well, in my mind, in my plan, the way I had everything worked out, I was going to be a successful, instructor. I was going to have a student who was going to be a tour player. He was going to win a tournament. My name would be a household name in the golfing instructional, side of golf, and everyone would know who I am. And then I would write the book. And it went the complete opposite way. I had to lose my marriage. I lost my house. I lost my condominium. At this time, I'd moved up to Ohio, and I had a house in Florida, and I had a house or a condominium in Ohio, and I was traveling back and forth doing 6 and 6, teaching full time. That ended up in a divorce. I had to hit rock bottom, and finally, God had me exactly where He wanted me. When you're at the very bottom, that is when you're most likely to listen to God, to talk to God. And at that point, I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this. But if I'm going to do this, you're going to have to lead the way because I don't know what I'm doing." And I just started writing, and I started pouring my heart out into it, and it was amazing how God worked through that. It became like very therapeutic for me. It was a great way for me to get some things off my chest, to acknowledge my failures, to acknowledge where I went wrong in life. And it just became an amazing journey. And now I love writing. I turned something that I never thought I would enjoy doing into a passion now that I really enjoy.
Now, do you think that you'll ever write another book?
I do, because I'm already getting stories that are starting to form. My goals now are a lot different. I mean, my goal as a teacher was to have tour players. And Bob Sowards is someone I've worked with since 2008. In 2008, he was on the PGA Tour. I got to spend a year doing that, and it was a great experience for me, and I write about this in the book. But I get more satisfaction now out of leading a Bible study. My book now has a Bible study. And to be able to sit down with a group of 10 or 12 people, some of them golfers, some of them not golfers, and to be able to talk about how the game of golf and be able to talk about Jesus Christ all in the same meeting is just so fulfilling for me. And I now want to have a golf ministry. So I already know the title of the book. The title of the book is going to be Golf is My Life, Birth of a Ministry. But what it's going to do is it's going to take me from when the book was finished to how God took me from being an instructor to an author and now forming a golf ministry. And that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. My goal is to one day be able to travel all around the country with a golf ministry, to be able to come to clubs all around the country, come in, start, do some Bible studies, do a golf clinic, and grow two things. I want to give back and grow the game of golf because I love the game of golf. But more importantly, I want to glorify God. And so I feel like there's so many people who play golf that are so lost in their personal lives that they would benefit from a Bible study. I also think that there's people who are Christians who are doing all the right things who've never played golf, and I want to bring them to golf. So it's kind of a win-win situation. The two passions I have in life, to be able to combine them into one and be able to go around the country and promote that, that's what I hope to do.
Well, I know that the times that we live in right now need God more than ever. And to bring God and golf together is I mean, for sure, God must have brought this to you, and that's why you're doing it, because God needs to be out there more. Because things are so really topsy-turvy in the whole world right now that we really need to understand how important each person is on the planet, and how we are all connected. And even if we're Christians or non-Christians, we are still God's children, and we are still connected. And if we can connect that through golf, too, because golf, for me, has helped me through life tremendously and has gotten me through so many different things. And it's also created some bad things in my life, too. But, you know, all things do that. And yes. But I think that, as we spoke earlier, it parallels life so much. There's so many lessons that can be learned on the golf course. And then if you can tie that in with understanding a better way to get closer to God, which I think everybody needs to do, not necessarily just one religion. I mean, God is God to me. Yes. And he touches the lives of everybody if they let him. And that's the whole key there, is allowing it to happen.
Yes, and I've been very fortunate that my parents exposed me to the game of golf. And as a child, when I was a child, that wasn't always the popular thing to do. I mean, you played football, you played baseball, you played basketball. There was no lacrosse, no soccer when I was a kid. You know, those were kind of your big three. And golf was, you know, golf or tennis were not looked at as kind of the cool sports. Now golf is looked at as with a lot of kids, as kind of the cool sport to play. So I was exposed to that. But I had parents that made me go to church every Sunday. I am very fortunate, okay? The problem is I kind of had the attitude going as a young adult in my 20s and 30s well, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. If you don't believe in God, that's your problem. That was kind of my attitude. And unfortunately, if you are a Christian, you are not asked, but you are required by God to have a ministry. And a ministry means spreading the word. It doesn't mean you have to go out and start a church or have to be a preacher or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is spread the word. And golf is a way that I feel like that God has called me to spread the word. When I look at golf is my life, that is my knowledge. Golf is the knowledge that God gave me to help people with. The wisdom is glorifying God through the game. And the key thing is we all are unique. Everyone, some people are teachers, some people are doctors, lawyers, whatever God gave you that makes you unique, that's great. But what you're to do with that is you're to take that and then you're to glorify God with it. He gave you that skill so that you can glorify Him. And by glorifying God, He will put you on a platform. His ways are much higher than my ways. And I'm learning that through personal experience. When I actually launched the book, 2 days after I launched the book, I lost my job. And you talk about having to put your faith in God. I was like, oh my gosh, I bought all these books. I've set up this book tour. And now I'm going, I've never sold books before. I've never been an author before. And now you're completely putting me in this direction. And I have been amazed at the doors that have opened up. God has just gone ahead of His angels and everything have just gone ahead and opened up the doors for me. And I now can see much clearer where He wants me to go with this ministry.
And I'm sure, too, that through that whole process, you had trust that He would lead you. And if you have that trust in God, and you have that positive outlook that things are going to be better, then things get better. You know, positive brings positive, and it's like a snowball. It has momentum, and it starts to pick up speed. It may not pick up speed right away, but it does start to pick up speed, and once it does, it's hard to stop. And
Yes.
And there are things that are going to get obstacles that are going to get in the way, but as long as we continue to try to keep that positive momentum in the picture, in our mind, and have that trust and faith, then things will always work out. I believe that. I know from my own life experiences, and I always try to let others know that if you have more of a positive outlook and what God would want you to do, then you're definitely going to be a much better person. You're going to be a much happier person, and a lot of this frivolous stuff is not going to mean anything. It just doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right. It's funny because in 2015, I was honored to be named the Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year, and when I received that honor, it's something I'd worked for years, and I was honored to win it. I took the award back to my hotel room, and I put it up. I laid the plaque on my bed, and I said, "Now what? Now what? What am I going to do now? I've worked so hard for this," but I didn't have the feeling inside that I did when I held the book for the first time. And when I held the book for the first time, I knew that was the first time in my life that I had actually turned my life over to God and done and followed the path that He wanted me to follow, and not tried to force my own path. And it wasn't about me. I knew when I wrote the book, this was not about me. This was about glorifying God. And He is rewarding me every day with just meeting great people. I mean, I've been able to meet you through this, and just traveling the country and watching how His plan is unfolding. It's been a great experience.
Well, I think God brings people together. I believe that, and I find that true every single day. I meet new people. I meet new students. I'm one of those guys who kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, and I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm just looking for camaraderie, and I find that many people feel the exact same way that I do. A lot of people don't want to express it, though, because they're afraid they might be ridiculed for it. But I think that if they express it, they'll realize that there are so many like-minded people who feel the exact same way. And what that does is God brings those people together and makes them, their lives more enriched by knowing others who are on the same path.
Yes, I agree. And golf brings people together as well. I mean, it's great. There's nothing like getting sometimes I would play in a section tournament and get with 3 other pros who I really didn't know, and to get to learn about them, or you get in, you go out and you play with your family, or you play with your best friends. Those are my favorite times to play golf. When I get together with my college friends, or I get together with my family and go out and play golf, that's what I really enjoy the game. And then there's the side of being a teacher and going out with a student and watching them maybe, hit their best drive ever, or watching them make a birdie for the first time. Those are experiences that are special as well. So golf is a lot, as we've talked about, is a lot like life. And the book has both of those elements to it.
Yeah, and there's that gift that you said. I mean, God gave us that gift. And that's why we love it so much, is because we can spread that gift to other golfers and help them enjoy the game more. And that really, I always felt, de-stresses their life a lot. I mean,
yes.
How many people do you know who had a good round of golf for them? And that might be 95. Okay, exactly. You don't have to shoot even par to have a good round of golf for some people. And how many people do you know, after they shoot what they consider a good round of golf, get in the car and have road rage, or go home and yell at their wife or their husband or their kids? Or no, they're in a good mood. They're happy. Things are right in the world for them that day, and they're a lot more kinder to people that they meet, or people who are in their family, or people who they just run into, and they're a lot more tolerable too. And that makes our little corner of the world a little bit better place. I always felt that if we can do whatever we can every day to touch someone's life and to make our little corner a better place, that's going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to go across the world, and we'll all be in a better place, and we'll all care more and be more, I want to say, more understanding to one another, and that everybody is fighting a battle. And whatever that battle is, we have to understand that they're fighting a battle same as us, and we have to be tolerant to that.
Amen. That's very well said.
So where are you promoting your book now? I mean, you said that you're traveling around, you're promoting your book. So give us some places where you're going. I mean, because that has to be exciting in itself.
It is. I'm based right now out of the Western North Carolina area. I grew up in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And my mom lives in South Asheville. My father lives in Black Mountain. So I'm spending a lot of time here. I've traveled to Ohio. I was just in Ohio last week at the Memorial. I've traveled up to Cleveland. I've gone all throughout the state of North Carolina, Pinehurst, down to Greenville, North Carolina. So I've been across the state. I've been all through South Carolina. I'm heading to Savannah this week. I've been down to Orlando. I've been to Dallas, Texas. Haven't gotten out west yet. I'm trying to line that up next. And I'm hoping this winter to really hit Florida. I did a book signing in Orlando, and it went really well. I think they sold out of my book, and they've ordered more books. I know it's going to do well in Florida. So I'm hoping to be down there in the winter months, because a lot of the people I know from Ohio will be down there during the winter months, and I'd love to get down there and get some Bible studies and book launches going as well. But it's been an amazing experience. I've been speaking at churches. I've done a ton of radio interviews. I've been able to do was featured on locally here on television as well. And the book is gaining traction. The thing I'm learning, having never been an author before, if you're a big time author like John Grisham or someone like that, or Stephen King, when your book comes out, those guys make all the money right up front. It's like Star Wars coming out. Everybody buys their book, and the first month they sell 10, 11, 12 million books, and they make all their money up front. When you're someone like me, no one, as far as being an author, no one had heard of my name. my book is slowly, it takes time to read a book. You don't just buy a book. And most people, I did have a guy who emailed me yesterday from Lincoln, Nebraska, said he read it in one day. But most people might take 3, 4, 5 months before they actually get into the book and start reading it. And then you're relying on word of mouth. And so it takes time. So I realized that my second year is probably going to do better from a sales standpoint than my first year, because by then the book, has been out in the marketplace and people have read it, and hopefully word of mouth will lead from there. My 2 focuses right now are hitting the churches. I want to get to the churches, especially the ones that have bookstores, and get Bible studies going there. So I'm willing to come to pretty much anywhere in the country to start a Bible study. I had a guy inquire the other day about going up. I'm going to be going to Cleveland, Ohio to start one up there. And then the second thing I want to do is I want to get in pro shops. I don't see any reason why my book cannot be in pro shops. If you put 5 or 10 of them, if golf pros, will put 5 or 10 of them in their pro shop. I think, think about this. When you go to tournaments, all the time, you're given gift packs. You get the same stuff. You get a visor, you get 3 balls, you get a towel, you get tee pack, you get all these little things that we kind of get at every tournament.
Yeah.
To be able to put a book, to put a soft cover book, which is less than $20, which is, that's typically a lot of tournaments are spending $20 to $50 depending on the size of the tournament on their gift packs. To be able to put that book in a gift pack would be something that's unique. And, I can sign the books as well. Those are things that I'm trying to get launched, and try to, go the next step on. I've even thought about doing the Shark Tank and trying to get on there. I don't know if selling a book on the Shark Tank might be difficult, but I could upsell with talking about the Bible study as well. So, but anyway, if anyone else out there, any of your viewers has ideas, I'm always, I'm learning this as I go along. So anything that I can do to help promote the book is appreciated.
I have an idea right now. Have you ever thought of doing an audio book of this?
Yes, actually, I've had several people who have asked me about that. I was speaking in Orlando at the Gathering of the Men, and a guy came up to me. And when I think of people who would want an audio book, I think of maybe, senior citizens, maybe, or whatever. But this guy was in his 30s, and he said, "You have an audio book out?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, I do a lot of commuting, and that's when I read all my books." And I said, "You know what? So I have talked to other authors. I am going to get that done. Whether I ought to do it or I have to pay someone to do it, that is something that I do want to have done." But I'm on Amazon, Barnes & Noble websites. I do have the ebook version available. And I'm getting people now from all over the world who are messaging me asking about how to get the book. You go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble websites, you can download the book. And also my website, which is jondeckergolf.com, and I spell my name Jon, deckergolf.com, has the links on there as well. Plus I have golf videos, instructional videos, about 30 of those up there as well.
That's great. Yeah, I know that for me, when I was in Pennsylvania, I had about a 35, 40-minute commute, and that's how I read. I put on an audio. I put on audible.com, and I downloaded audio books. I was a member of that, and you could download as many books as you wanted for $9.99 a month. And this is not a plug for them. They don't do anything for me. And I would listen to a lot of books. And then now when my son is up near Orlando in Winter Park, it's about a 3.5-hour drive from here. Yeah. I'll go up there a couple times a year and visit him. He's at Full Sail University studying film, and I'll throw an audiobook on and I'll listen to that. And you can get a lot of chapters in a 3-hour ride, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And it's a real enjoyable way for me to feel like, because unfortunately for me, I'm a multitasker. I have to feel like I can't do one thing at a time. I feel like I have to be doing something and then doing something else. Maybe that's because I've always been an entrepreneur, and I feel like time is money, and time is super valuable to me, and I don't want to waste 1 second of it. So that's, to me, is a great way to digest some great books, and then still be able to, I'm on my way going someplace, to go do a job or to go meet somebody or visit or whatever.
I'm definitely going to look into that, and that's something that has been brought up to me as well, and I definitely want to get that accomplished with the book, hopefully this summer.
Well, where is your next appearance going to be now?
I'm going to be going to Savannah, Georgia this week. I'm going to be speaking, I'm going to be doing a book signing at the Barnes & Noble in Savannah, but I am going to be doing a radio interview down there as well. I'm hoping also to stop in Hilton Head. I'm trying to get some Bible studies. I've got one going in Beaufort, South Carolina, which has been fantastic. They've had 15 to 17 people every week. I launched that one. They're going to do it you can do the Bible study in 4 weeks, which is very difficult to do, but you can because there's 19 chapters in the book. But 6 to 8 weeks is kind of the plan, or that I recommend. 6 weeks can be comfortably done. And but I'm going to try to hopefully stop in there as well and see some people there and just kind of see how it's going. But feedback so far has been very well on that. And like I said from your earlier, I'm willing to travel, to any part of the country to get this started. And, I've gotten some interest also from some people who have read the book who are interested in doing sales for me and trying to reach out to some of the larger churches. The churches that have the bookstores would be ideal for the book. It's, to be able to put those in and come to speak to your youth group and speak to your service. I've done all of those. So there's a lot of different possibilities of ways you can go with it.
Well, Jon, it's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest, and you're doing some great things out there, and keep up the good work and keep spreading the word. And we wish you all the success in the world, and hope that your next book is even more successful.
Well, thank you, Bernard. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoy your show, and thank you for what you're doing, because you're reaching out to golf professionals and people in the business, and you're growing the game of golf, and thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure. I mean, we all have our calling, and
exactly.
This is part of mine. So until we meet again, do your best to keep it in the short grass. Okay, Jon?
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You've been listening to Breaking Par with your host, Bernard Sheridan. Follow us on Twitter @BreakingPar and on Facebook @Par Breakers Golf Academy. Until next week, try to keep it on the short grass.